Quite an experience to live in fear, isn't it? That's what it is to be a slave.
Hello, Contrarians, listeners, watchers, subscribers. Here we are for the Bladerunner, the final cut. Post credits. This has been a long time coming for us. For you, ideally, it'll be just up shortly after the episode is up on the main feed. But we had to arrange this because we wanted a Blade Runner super fan to come in and join us for the post credits, and that is, of course, Highlander super fan Corey Ari. Batman
forever
exactly.
Superfan,
Batman Forever superfan, Corey Ari, and now, of course, Blade Runner superfan. So, what would be the next big thing, Corey, that we would have you for? What's your another super fandom?
I mean, that really depends on like what y'all are covering, and I've already told both you and Alex that the next thing that like we did Highlander because I wanted us to do that one. The next big thing that, like, from my perspective, where I'm like, I want us to cover is Nightbreed.
Which is, I know you brought it up.
Yeah, it's a Clive Barker movie that.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, it's not as big as Hellraiser, but it's got its own fandom, and for me, it's just a fantastic movie. Not for many reasons, but also because David Cronenberg is actually an actor in the movie, and he is terrifying. But also, like, it's one of those movies where it's like, back in the 80s when it came out, like, maybe people didn't really read into it, but now, given the time that it is, and we know, Clive Barker being a gay man living in a straight world in the 1980s, the movie has a lot of, like, symbolism and, like, layers that, like, relate to a lot of things that are going on today. So, like, as time goes on, the movie just becomes more and more relevant.
You're saying that that's a movie that was maybe not completely appreciated when it came out, and decades later, it's gained a following that maybe has turned into a cult classic, much like
Blade Runner and Highlander and maybe even Batman Forever. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think we figured you out, Corey. Anyway, yes, we're here for Blade Runner. Peek behind the scenes. We recorded Blade Runner episode, God, feels like at least a month ago, maybe longer than that, because that one we had, if you've listened to the episode now, you know that we also had guests, Ryan and Rachel, and they're in Australia, so we had to, like, really figure things out to make it work. So hopefully you've listened to that conversation. Corey's right here, like literally like 2 doors down. So it's a little easier. But yeah, if you've listened to that conversation, especially if you listened to it recently, you probably have a fresher memory of it than Alex or I, because we recorded that a while ago, and honestly, I haven't even started editing it yet. So this will be interesting, though, because that means that we've had time to, like, sit with Blade Runner and, reflect upon what we said, what we didn't say, and maybe what we could say now, especially with Corey joining us. So let's get into it. There's a post-credit still, so we're going to talk about Rotten Tomatoes. We're going to give you some quotes. We're going to give you some trivia. We're going to do the Josh Gad Minute. And, of course, I'm missing one. Oh, and the trailer chatter. It'll all come out, maybe not in that order. So let's get started. I have 2 sets of fresh tomatoes, because I think, as I mentioned on the main feed when that episode was recorded, the original Blade Runner has its own entry, which is 89% certified fresh on the Tomatometer, with 132 critic reviews, 91% of the popcorn meter, so super fresh. And then the final cut, which is the movie we watched and discussed on the episode, it has also a separate entry, which I guess was just for some people. Some people got the memo, and only 17 critics logged reviews for that. 94% of the tomato meter, not certified fresh, because I get 17 doesn't get you that. And then 90% of the popcorn meter. Either way, whichever way you slice the tomato, it's fresh. And so I'm going to read you the consensus. And then, instead of going with Rotten Tomatoes quotes, because we did plenty of those in the episode, I pulled some quotes from our patrons from Letterboxd, and also a letter from Philip K. Dick, which I don't know if either of you guys are familiar with, but I wasn't. And then I run into it on the internet, and I figure I'd bring it here. But let's start with the consensus. Critics' consensus. Misunderstood when it first hit theaters, the influence of Ridley Scott's mysterious neo-noir Blade Runner has deepened with time. A visually remarkable, achingly human sci-fi masterpiece. I guess that's just kind of the story of so many of these sci-fi movies. Misunderstood when they first hit theaters, and then, and then they become cult classics. So I got some patron quotes. Robert Stewart, our friend Stu from the Stewart Order, he gave 3 stars to Blade Runner and went on a little bit of a rant. Said, technically, it's a very well-made movie. The effects are fantastic for the era. The lighting is extraordinary and moody. The character work is well handled, even though Deckard is super rapey and uncomfortable at certain points. He is. The shot framing and cinematography, all top shelf. And yet, I must confess to a substantial level of boredom as I watched this. It actually felt more like a modern TV series than a movie in a number of ways. Several good, like the character building. But one was that in the middle felt boring and like it was padding time waiting for its own resolution. Maybe it was a little too noir for me, with all of Deckard's detective traversals and brooding and sitting around contemplating. It all just felt so slow. Rutger Hauer is the star here, especially with his unhinged turn in the third act. He was the most enjoyable thing on my screen at any given time. I just wish we had more of him. You can't be too noir.
No, I was about to say that if your patience is low, noir might not be for you, just generally speaking. I don't know. I think it's a movie that is very focused on the world and tone it wants to build, and that the runtime is certainly part of that. So it's not. This isn't a movie. If someone gets bored with it, whatever, that's their prerogative. But this isn't a movie I watched and could find really anything of like, oh, you could cut this entire thing out of there,
it almost like it has to be slow. And of course, I've been living with Blade Runner being slow my entire life, so I can't imagine a faster paced Blade Runner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can, because they made one.
I was about to say, maybe that's how you end up with 2049.
Yeah. And while I won't say that it's a bad movie, it's definitely...
It's not Blade Runner.
I don't own it, okay? You know what I mean? And yeah, like, again, like Alex was saying, like, if you're not into noir in its, like, traditional, like, trappings, then, like, yeah, this movie might be difficult for you to watch. When I meet people who are like, oh, it was too slow for me, I understand that. Especially if they're on the younger side, where movies now are very, like we're just moving forward, like, yeah, they might be 3 hours long, but something crazy is always happening,
Mm-hmm.
But like traditionally, like noir is a slower, more cognitive, more existential exploration of characters and themes. And in terms of like, not just like neo-noir, but noir in general, like Blade Runner is kind of a masterpiece of a film in that specific genre, where like it does all the things that make noir great. For those people who love noir, like this movie hits all the benchmarks. So I definitely understand what this person is saying, and everyone has a title to their own opinion, but like, no.
I see where you're coming from. I understand why you're wrong, but you're wrong. So right, Stu, we're going to move over to our friend Jordan Mans, who never rates movies. He just, gives you his thoughts, and they're usually pretty brief. He just says, "This was chill. I'm glad Ridley Scott exists." Then he says, "Maybe I need to rewatch this. I watched this in my apartment in Chicago, Illinois. Watched on Netflix." I wonder if Jordan's had the chance. This was back in 2020, so if he's had 5 years since then, so maybe catch a screening of Blade Runner on the big screen, because this, I think it's one of those movies that, obviously not if you didn't like it, but if you like it, you kind of owe it to yourself to catch it at least once in theaters, because it's pretty spectacular, even, though it was made so many years ago, the visual aspect of it, and then, the sound too. So I would encourage anybody to watch in theaters. Alex, do you think that next time it comes to the Paramount, you might consider?
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, keep an eye out, of course, for any film screenings. But yeah, I'd definitely like to see it on the big screen.
Yeah, maybe that.
As someone who personally has seen it on the big screen 6 times,
Nice.
it is very much better on a big screen. But again, like, this is a movie that I'll throw on in the background just when I'm like, oh, I don't know what to watch right now. This is one of 3 movies I will put on in the background anytime. And no matter what I have to do, at some point I will find myself sitting down going, yep. But yeah, seeing it in a theater, especially with like the modern sound systems and stuff, and especially if you're seeing the final cut of the movie, like it is an extremely rewarding experience if it's a movie that you enjoy.
Are the other 2 movies Outlander and Batman Forever?
Highlander, not Outlander.
Highlander. Outlander would be like a whole TV show, if you want to watch that.
Well, that depends on if you're talking about the TV show Outlander or the movie Outlander with Jim Caviezel, which are 2 very different things.
I know I'm definitely not watching one of those.
But no, those are not the other 2 movies. The other 2 movies are Casablanca and John Carpenter's The Thing.
Well, one of those has been covered recently on the Contrarians, so I guess at some point we have to do John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm down for that.
Yeah, well, our last Carpenter experience wasn't that great. I think that's when we did Ghost of Mars, right? That was the last time that...
You poor bastards. Although, like, I own that movie, and I do actually enjoy that movie, but John Carpenter can only remake Rio Bravo so many times, okay?
Like, you own that, but you don't own Blade Runner 2049.
No, I don't. But you know what? One of them doesn't have Jared Leto in it, so...
Yeah.
That's fair.
Our friend Paul from, not Filmbusters Paul, but Countdown Paul, who goes by Kaiser Zoze in... Letterboxd. He also gave it 3 stars, like Stu. This is from, back in 2017, September 18, 2017. He says, it's always difficult coming into a beloved film decades after its release. The newcomer lacks the nostalgic affection many who saw the film at the time of its release carry with them as a shield to that film's flaws or shortcomings. And sadly, Blade Runner has plenty of both. And then Paul went on, because Paul can go on writing for many paragraphs when he wants to. In this case, he wanted to. We're not going to read all that, not because it's not good reading, but because, unlike a noir, we kind of have to keep moving things along. But I'll just say that, I agree up to the point that there are some movies that it's almost impossible to appreciate in the way that people that kind of grew up with them appreciate. You come to Blade Runner 25 years after its release, and the hype is always going to be a little bit of an obstacle. And then if it's not perfect for you from the beginning, it's going to make it even worse. So I get it. At the same time, like I mentioned on the recording, I didn't love Blade Runner right away. It took several watches for my appreciation to grow and for me to get it. So it wasn't love at first sight. I mean, there's some movies that I've come to that were love at first sight, even when they were, really old and had hype. But Blade Runner is not one of those that's easy to love, at least in my opinion. Corey, did you love it from the beginning, or was it a process?
Well, I mean, okay, so yes and no. It's complicated because, again, like when I first saw Blade Runner, I saw the original theatrical cut on VHS, like when I was maybe like 5 or 6. So, like, the other thing I would say about Blade Runner, though, and like every cut that they've done since that original cut has gotten better. But one of the things I will say is that, like, modern movies spoon feed you everything. Like, you don't have to think with most modern movies. Accurate. Blade Runner is a movie that shows you a lot and expects you to be an intelligent audience member who's going to infer things and figure things out for yourself about like character motivations and even some of the plot elements. And like, it's a movie that wants you to be cognitively like engaged with the movie in a way that creates a genuine experience for you. It's not just there to show you explosions and for you to have fun. So that is not what everybody wants out of a movie. So, like I always liked Blade Runner, even from watching that original cut. And I've only grown to love it more and more over the years.
I definitely liked it enough to keep watching it. So, and like I said, that's if you don't like it enough to rewatch it, then the movie has absolutely failed. So that wasn't the case for me. Alex, I know that for you, it was just more of a fresher experience when we did it for the show. So
yeah, it's a great movie. It's not a movie I'm ambivalent about at all, but it's just like the heightened reactions to it have never been for me what they are for some of the others. Like, I think it's excellent, but You know, I'm not as in love with it as Corey is, but also some of those. It's certainly not boring, but it's a movie that inspires a lot of like spirited discussion, and I think I'm just like, yeah, it's really good. That's about the extent of how deep I want to go into this conversation.
Yeah. I think Alex's reaction is like actually the best reaction to the film. Honestly. You know, like, I mean, I unapologetically love this movie and love everything about it, and like, I don't think there's any such thing as a perfect movie. But like those three movies I mentioned that are like the ones that I love the most, like those for me are the closest you get to a perfect movie. And mind you, keep in mind they're the most closest to a perfect movie within the kind of movie they're trying to be. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's like this is obviously one of those movies where some people don't like it, and like they explain why they don't like it. I'm like, I totally get that. That makes sense to me for you. But like, yeah, it's just like, again, even tonight, like I was trying to do other things and rewatching the movie, and like I just couldn't stop sitting there and just being like, okay. It's like I know all the dialogue, I know everything that happens in the movie, but I'm still transfixed by it. And I think the other thing that like we fail to realize is how influential it really is. You know, it's like there are so many things that, whether it be in terms of cinematography or storytelling or character like construction, that draw from this, as opposed to the things that this actually draws from, which are like older and sometimes more like well regarded in a lot of ways. But at the same time, there are a lot of people like me that hype this movie up very big and make it very difficult for someone who's never seen it to come into it and get the same experience they have, you know? Because there's plenty of movies that I've watched where people are like, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen. And then I watch it and I'm like, yeah, it's fine.
I mean, that's always...
I do that with a lot of movies too. Just Blade Runner's not one of them. So,
well, I try to not overhype things. I'll hype it once, and then after that, I know that anything after my initial hyping is probably going to be diminishing returns. I'm gonna do the opposite of getting people excited about it, because you know, if you haven't watched it after the first time I told you that you should watch it, me telling you after that, it's just gonna be me nagging, and that's not gonna help the movie. It's not gonna help you enjoy the movie. It's just not gonna be worth it. So Blade Runner fans, don't nag. Just tell people, hey, this is good, and then let them figure it out.
Well, the other thing that I like recognize is that for me, as both a filmmaker and an actor, a lot of the things that I love about this movie are things that speak to me specifically. And I think a lot of the people who love this movie, whether they be filmmakers or actors or just film fans, it's like you do have to understand that movies speak to different people in different ways. And just because something hits that hard for you doesn't mean it's for everybody. And I would never say that Blade Runner is a film for everybody, which is why it's ridiculous that there's a sequel fucking 30 years later.
Maybe, you know, it also affects private detectives a certain way. If you're a private detective, you're like, yeah, Decker, that's my life. One more patron, Stu Willis, one half of Draft Zero, gave it 5 stars and a heart. Says, poor JF. And then he says, final cut. I wish the director's cut was in Blu-ray too. And then he says, I was into the whole Deckard is a replicant thing because of my mistaken belief in the right of authorial intention. But now I'm starting to think that the film is thematically better if Deckard isn't a replicant. We'll see what 2049 brings about. That's from October 7, 2017. So this is before 2049 had come out. And Corey, you said that you wanted to talk about this. So I figure Stu's review was like the perfect segue into the replicant thing, which it got touched on. I don't remember how much we talked about it because we talked about so many things in the main recording, and my stance has been the same for a while now, and it sounds like yours has to, Corey. I remember we talked about it a little bit before, and then Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, your stance was like, I don't really think about it. I just take the movie, you know, the movie didn't tell me one way or the other.
Yeah, I like the idea of it. It's kind of titillating to think about and whatnot, but it's not at any point in the movie, I wasn't. I think like in the beginning, I was like, or there were a few moments where like, is he a replicant? But then I would find something else to get invested in. So yeah, it's not that I don't care. It's just not one of the driving things about this movie that like I think about. I guess I should say.
Corey, do you want to argue that the pro-replicant?
Well, first off,
Yeah.
I want to say that I think, again, Alex's reaction is the right one. Okay? No matter what I think, no matter what anybody else thinks, I think his reaction is the right one. Okay? Because, again, if there was never a sequel, we could all just go on with it being ambiguous, which I think is the most interesting and like fulfilling aspect of it, because it makes you question the movie you watch, and it makes you think about things more, and it causes conversations, and it's the kind of thing that makes the ending of a movie great. It's like one of my other movies that I love is John Carpenter's The Thing, and the idea of like at the end of that movie is one of them, The Thing. Like that's something that has progressed for years and people still talk about it, and like again, that's something that lets a movie live on past its time. And I think that's the correct reaction. But also for me, Decker is a replicant. And while I still think that the movie has validity and that the movie is entertaining and it has something to say if he's not a replicant, it's so much more powerful if he is. Because on one hand, he's just a normal guy. He's a normal guy who's doing a job that at some point he gets shown the error of his ways and he begins to think differently, which says something about the world he lives in and the system that he lives in and the system he's a part of.
That sounds like a fantastic story. That sounds like a great character arc.
And you're not wrong. But if he is a replicant, then he is even more so a tool of that system. He is someone who has been given a false identity. He has been inundated with an idea of identity that is not true, and then literally turned against his own people, which is something that, like, again, like if we're breaking it down into like themes and stuff like that, is something that we see prevalent in society. It's one of those things of like, well, oh no, you might be of this original culture, you might be of this original race, but you have now been inundated to this idea of a new identity, which will turn you against the people that you should feel a kinship with, and I think that's one of the great things about the ending of the movie, especially if he is a replicant, is that Rutger Hauer's character, Roy, he's not trying to kill Decker. Like, you watch that whole sequence and it's like, yes, he is scary and he is violent and he is hurting him. But like at the end of the day, he's not trying to kill him. He's trying to open his eyes. He's trying to make him understand. And like, honestly, in my opinion, one of the best Harrison Ford performances that he has ever given is the moment where Roy is giving his final speech and the moments that come after, where it's not Harrison saying anything or doing anything. It's him listening and understanding, and you see this like wave come over his face where you see a character change, and it's just this beautiful moment, and so for me,
But
it's
it
like,
works if he's not a replicant. Like that thing you described, which I agree is like amazing. I mean, that's him changing whether he's a replicant or not.
No, it's amazing either way. And I admit that. But for me personally, if he is a replicant, it is a more powerful moment, especially because again, he doesn't know at that time. If you're going with the version of the story where he is a replicant, at that time he doesn't know he's a replicant. He thinks he's just like everybody else.
I mean, he doesn't know at all, like even at the end of the movie, right? Like he doesn't figure it out. If he is a replicant, the little unicorn that he gets from Edward James Olmos at the end, does it click for him that he's a replicant?
Yes.
Or is it meant to click for us that he's a replicant?
Well, again, because if you watch the previous cuts of the movie where they don't have the footage of him dreaming about unicorns, then like in those versions, well, it doesn't fucking matter. It's like him getting that thing is like, honestly, and that's one of my big sticking points on him being a replicant, is the whole thing with the unicorn. If you're watching other cuts of the movie where he's not a replicant, the unicorn scene should be cut.
I agree.
It does not matter. It only matters if he is a replicant, because it's essentially James Edward Olmos's character telling him that, like, no, like, these are dreams that a lot of replicants have shared, and by showing you this, I'm letting you know what you are. Where, like, that's in, and like, him finding it's in every cut of the movie, but, like, it only makes sense if he is a replicant.
Well, the way that I remember before I was fully aware of the lore, I remember I just thinking, oh, well, what is not so much that he finds a unicorn. Like, the unicorn is for us. Like, we see it and we're like, oh, that's the unicorn. And he was dreaming of the unicorn. But for him, it's just like, oh, it's origami. Who do I know that does origami? Edward James Olmos. Oh, he's been here and he didn't kill her. So that means that he's telling me, I'm coming for you. I'm just giving you a head start. You need to get out.
Mm-hmm.
So, I read it that way, as in, like, this is James Edward Olmos just telling him, or Edward James Olmos? James Edward Olmos, telling him.
Edward James Olmos, Ejo.
Selena's dad. And
yes.
Selena. He telling him, I'm doing you a solid. I'm giving you at least the chance to run. So, but I agree with you, Corey, that logically, if you put that unicorn scene there, it's like the only reason it's there is to tell you that he's a replicant. So when I push back, it's not against the logic of, like, is he a replicant or not, but more against, like, I want him to not be a replicant, because I guess I connect more to the story of, like, a regular guy that is also a tool of the system,
Mm-hmm.
and that he learns to empathize with somebody that's not like him. The replicants are not like him, and in that final interaction, well, I guess through the entire movie, but especially that final interaction with Roy Batty, he sees that they're human. So he recognizes the commonality between him and somebody that's not like him. If he's a replicant, I get that the powerful side is different, right? Like, you're talking about, like, oh, the world is even shittier, because they're so cruel that they're turning this person against sort of his own species, so to speak. But it almost feels to me like that is the beginning of a great movie. It's a big twist, but I'm like, okay, well, now I want to see, like, what happens next. Whereas, like, if he's not a replicant, the ending feels more like an ending. It's like, oh, he's.
I do think that is a perfectly valid interpretation and feeling about it. But let me ask you this: you saw where that story goes.
Yes, I want to spoil it for Alex because Alex hasn't seen it yet. Although we did say, I think, on the recording that at least my reading of 2049 is that it doesn't really. They could have given you a definitive answer, and I guess that some people can read it in a way that they say, yeah, it was definitive. But I felt like they were also kind of, like, walking on eggshells to not say too much. So they could, like, later argue, no, it doesn't mean this or it doesn't mean that.
In the movie, they don't ever, like, explicitly state one way or the other.
I wanted the Jared Leto voiceover that told me.
But if you watch the interviews for that movie, it's made very clear that Deckard is not a replicant.
I don't watch interviews.
Literally every single actor in every single, like, interview at some point stated Deckard is not a replicant.
Okay, but that is almost like that's let's say that's canon until they make Blade Runner 2075 and they're like, no, it is he is a replicant, and they just change it again. And I was actually going to ask you, because you mentioned the Thing, right? And hasn't Carpenter actually come out and, like, said, like, that he
I mean, like, he's never okay, so he said that all the reasons why people state one way or the other are wrong, but he's never given a definitive answer, because for him, the entire point is that you're not supposed to know.
Okay. So at least
he told Stephen Colbert he does know who is the Thing at the end, but you have to send him a check in the mail for him to tell you.
Yeah.
They told Stephen Colbert.
Because that's John Carpenter, man. Like, this is John Carpenter all day, every day. Like,
he's not cashing checks.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he's gonna cash the check, but at the end of the day.
All right. Well, that was what everybody was waiting for, the replicant discussion. Now, to close this segment, Alex, before we go to the trailer chatter, so I found this on the internet, and I was like, is this real? Because there's so much, like, fake bullshit around, but the minimum research I did seemed to indicate that this was real, or at least it was reported as real in several outlets. So this is a letter from Philip K. Dick, the writer of the original short story that Blade Runner is based on. This is from October 11, 1981. And I guess he sent it to... we're gonna read it, and hopefully comes up like where he sent it. But I think it was like he saw something on TV about Blade Runner, and he was like, "Oh, this is exciting." So he wrote, "Dear Jeff, I happened to see the Channel 7 TV program Hooray for Hollywood tonight with the segment on Blade Runner. Well, to be honest, I didn't happen to see it. Someone tipped me off that Blade Runner was going to be a part of the show, and to be sure to watch. Jeff, after looking, and especially after listening to Harrison Ford discuss the film, I came to the conclusion that this indeed is not science fiction. It is not fantasy. It is exactly what Harrison said, futurism. The impact of Blade Runner is simply going to be overwhelming, both on the public and on creative people, and I believe on science fiction as a field. Since I have been writing and selling science fiction works for 30 years, this is a matter of some importance to me. In all candor, I must say that our field has gradually and steadily been deteriorating for the last few years. Nothing that we have done individually or collectively matches Blade Runner. This is not escapism. It is super realism, so gritty and detailed and authentic and goddamn convincing that, well, after the segment, I found my normal present-day reality pallid by comparison. What I am saying is that all of you collectively may have created a unique new form of graphic, artistic expression, never before seen, and I think Blade Runner is going to revolutionize our conceptions of what science fiction is and more can be. Let me sum it up this way. Science fiction has slowly and ineluctably settled into a monotonous death. It has become inbred, derivative, stale. Suddenly, you people have come in, some of the greatest talents currently in existence, and now we have a new life, a new start. As for my own role in the Blade Runner project, I can only say that I did not know that a work of mine or a set of ideas of mine could be escalated into such stunning dimensions. My life and creative work are justified and completed by Blade Runner. Thank you. And it is going to be one hell of a commercial success. Oops. Well. It will prove invincible. Philip K. Dick, I was going to say, not quite tooting his own horn. I guess, he ain't saying like, hey, I just wrote the thing, but I had no idea. That's what makes it endearing instead of like, I choose to see it as some dude that was like really not expecting it to be like that great,
Well, I mean, he's like 95% right, except for that. The thing about it being like a commercial success. But he's about 95% right, and he probably feels that way because it is so different from his book. Like, it's not the book he wrote, hell, the title isn't even taken from anything Philip K. Dick ever wrote. Like, I actually have a video on my YouTube channel about where that title comes from, and it's not from Philip K. Dick.
But that's from the screenplay either, right? Because do they ever call anybody a Blade Runner?
No, yeah, in the screenplay, Harrison Ford is referred to as a Blade Runner, but that was only after they changed the title, which again, like, I'm not going to go into like the whole thing, but like the term Blade Runner comes from the William S. Burroughs novel Naked Lunch. It has nothing to do with Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Not at all.
Because you're right. The intro titles talk about Blade Runners. I think that we never figure out, and when we're talking about it before,
well, you also have the line from James Edward Olmos, where like he first meets Deckard in like where Deckard's eating, and he's like, and then like he's having to be translated because James Edward Olmos created this entire language for his character on his own, which is street speak. But like, like you have the line where like the guy working at the Chinese restaurant says, like, he says, "You're a Blade Runner," and like, so yeah, it is actually in the dialogue of the movie, and like
the early titular line, yeah.
Roll credits.
So I haven't read the original story. I read the one for Minority Report, which I remember talking. I think I talked about that with you, Corey, where I was kind of surprised by how the movie, the adaptation that Spielberg did, it's basically the same concept, but then it takes in a very different direction to where like the movie ends up saying the opposite of what the short story does.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's every Philip K. Dick. Almost. Okay, that's almost every Philip K. Dick adaptation, with the exception being Scanner Darkly.
I think I'd say Paycheck.
No.
Well, I haven't read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. I would be curious to check it out, even though I imagine that it's very different from the movie overall, based on the author's enthusiasm in that letter and just how excited he's. I was surprised. You know, it could also have to do with Philip K. Dick's personality, I guess, you know, because there are other authors that would have been like, oh, I am so happy to see my vision realized. But instead, he's more like, I had no idea that you could take something I wrote and make it into something amazing. So I thought it was pretty endearing, him becoming a complete fanboy before the movie even came out.
Oh, yeah. It's very awesome. Endearing. And I don't know how much you know about Philip K. Dick, but he was not what you would call a happy or enthusiastic person. So him having such good feelings about this, and again, like hearing his thoughts on other movie adaptations of his, like Total Recall and stuff like that, it's very endearing.
The ones that made money.
Yeah.
Damn it. Anyway, we watched the trailer for Blade Runner, the final cut. Not the other 25 trailers available online. This is the one for the final cut. So let's do some trailer chatter about it. Alex, what did you think seeing the sci-fi filter applied through the entire trailer?
Yeah. So I assume this trailer was for a physical media release. Yeah, it was the 4K that was released in 2017. So of course it's going to be showing all the wide sprawling shots and the really visually impressive things. And it's a trailer that assumes whoever's watching it has knowledge of the material, because it's not like one of those trailers that kind of tells you this is what it's going to be. Like they build up to the Sean Young reveal. Like people will be like, oh yeah, there's Sean Young. So, I now have a 4K television finally, and when I get my PlayStation 5, whenever GTA 6 comes out, which who knows, there might be 3 more Blade Runner films by that point. But I would definitely be open to adding this to my 4K collection, because this trailer exists to just show like the really impressive parts of the movie. And it does. Do you think the comments are like, "Oh my god, this looks incredible"?
Yeah, from people that have seen it, right? But
yeah, exactly. Right. Like the restoration looks incredible.
This is a dangerous trailer. Nice. What do you think? It's a dangerous trailer for people that haven't seen it, and they could get fooled into thinking that the movie's something that it's not.
I have no sympathy for those people. This movie would have been 35 years old at that point, so tough shit.
I agree. I agree to a large extent, yes. But I mean, like, one of the reasons why it looks so great is because of how well those effects and things. Now, again, there are some, there's no such thing as a perfect movie. There are some effects in the movie that are not as good as others. But for a lot of the effects, they did the same thing that Stanley Kubrick did on 2001: A Space Odyssey, where instead of shooting the film with areas blacked out and then going in and adding stuff after the fact, and then reshooting that on a separate piece of film and combining them, what they ended up doing was actually shooting the original film and shooting it 3 times in a black and white, where they could heighten different color aspects, and then reshooting on top of the same film so that it added them together. So like you're not doing it in post-production, so you don't get a lot of the like degradation that you see in a lot of older films where they're adding like matte paintings after the fact. And there's a lot of matte paintings in this movie that are shot in camera, where it's like, they got the piece of glass and they got, what's going on in front of the camera going on in front of the camera. Not to mention the fact that like just like the models and the miniatures and everything that they're doing in this movie are like on another frickin' level. Again, it's like this was, before this, Ridley Scott was planning on doing an adaptation of Dune, and he basically brought in like all the best French comic book artists to like create the visuals for it, and he brought a lot of those same people not only onto Alien, but then later on would bring them onto this. So like you just have some amazing footage that's expertly shot for someone who was as young as Ridley Scott was at the time, and just like created by
That's
some
why.
of the and
You know,
created
that
by like
energy.
some of the best minds who were doing visual conception at the time. You know, like Mobius created designs for that like weren't technically for this movie, but they ended up in this movie. You know what I mean? Like it's Mobius. For anyone who's watching who is not familiar, Mobius is pretty much one of the greatest comic book creators of all time.
Also played by Jared Leto on that biopic a few years ago,
I was
where
trying to
he's a
figure out-
vampire. I know they took some
Fuck.
liberties with his life.
Get fucked. Get completely fucked sideways. Okay.
I didn't mean to disparage, by the way, old age Ridley Scott. I think that he's kind of charming in his own like grumpy old man ways. But I think that maybe when he was younger, he had less time to be angry about the rest of the world, so he could just focus on making a fucking awesome movie.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm thinking, man, shooting the same thing 3 times, over and over. That's like no wonder Harrison Ford's just exhausted through the entire movie. So it makes sense, but it's worth it. I agree. It looks amazing. Even just watching the highlights on the trailer, it reminded me, Alex, when we did the Casablanca episode, because we also watched the trailer for the re-release, and it was again that thing of like, oh, we're just gonna show you the highlights. We're not even gonna care about providing context.
The sizzle reel.
Yeah. It's like, them. It's Rick and Ilsa and Laszlo. And here it's like, there it is. There's Deckard and Roy. There's Daryl Hannah, and there's the guy with the old face. And I was surprised that they kept like the that baddie's final speech. They didn't get more of a you see the shot, but he doesn't really get to say the line about the stars, or I've seen so many things. I know I'm misquoting him, but
I mean, no, but that's worth saving.
Yeah.
And I mean, Julio, because when you were watching this movie for y'all's original video, I just came down and sat down, and that like I literally know every word to that speech and couldn't help myself but sitting there and just being like, I've seen starships on fire off the coast of Orion. Like I like it's too good. Like it's one of the best villain speeches ever, because it's so humanizing for that character. So yeah, yes, I think that most trailers like this would have included it, but for the sake of anyone who, that's the one thing that I will give this trailer, whereas most, like you were saying, most of the trailer acts like you've seen the movie before, but they don't give you that because it's too good.
Yeah, I agree. I liked it. I think that it did the job as far as like making you want to watch the even if you've already seen Blade Runner, like, holy shit, this looks amazing. And I want to say, Alex, it's not just for the physical media release. I think that what they did, and I could be wrong, but I think that it was going to be released on Blu-ray, and so it had a brief theatrical run as a lead up to the release. I think it was like just like special screenings, but and so because I remember that's how I saw it. Like the Alamo was having like special shows of the final cut. So yeah, I think there was like an advertising for both, like the special screenings and the physical release. But anyway, enough about the trailer. Before we delve into trivia, let's grab Josh Gad and let's have the Josh Gad minute. Neo-noir, futuristic Josh Gad. Alex, what are you thinking?
I mean, if we're being honest with ourselves, there's only really one role here where this would work, and it pains me to eliminate M. Emmett Walsh from the fray. But
I knew it. You're not wrong.
Brian, I think Brian would be the character he would fit in best as, because I don't want to do some shit where he's like gaff or I can't have him be. I don't want him also to have any like moments of biting insight and wisdom, like profound wisdom that are going to stick with me forever. So I'm open to discussion, but that would be my my initial election.
It's definitely the easiest transition. Josh Gad, grows a mustache and just sits behind that desk and shoots for a couple days, and that's I honestly, my instinct, I'd already forgotten that Emmett Walsh was in the movie, even though he's amazing in his role. But no, I was thinking the guy, is he JT, JF, TF? The guy that.
JF, William Sanderson.
Yes.
Yeah, he makes the toys.
Yes, the
Yeah.
guy, the
Like,
toy
that's
maker.
the other obvious one where it's like it fits Josh Gad's, like, it fits his wheelhouse, you know?
Yes. Yeah, he has the kind of like the childlike innocence, but also,
The nervousness when he becomes like more aware of the situation.
Yeah,
We call him JG Sebastian, though.
yes, yeah.
Sebastian.
And he, the clumsiness when he meets Daryl Hannah, and he's like, oh my god, this woman is coming into my house, and then the sad tragic end. And you leaving, he doesn't die on screen, so we don't get to see the dad getting murdered. We just feel the loss, but it's not graphic. He's not playing the creator. He doesn't get his eyes popped in or anything. So that would be my vote. Corey, do you have an easier alternative?
Nope. I've got a wild card.
Oh,
I think replace oh god, what's her name? I know her name. Damn it.
not Daryl Hannah.
Not Daryl Hannah, the other replicant who dances with the snake. Replace that character with Josh Gad. You can still show his tits. Okay.
Zora? Is that it?
Zora, yes. Zora. Yeah, replace Zora with Josh Gad because, I mean, already when she's running through the plates of glass, if you look closely on the like Blu-ray version, you can tell that it's a male stuntman. And I mean, we're living in a different time now. I can see Josh Gad being very popular doing the kind of show that she is presumed to be doing.
But then we get Josh Gad getting shot in the back, and
he didn't say it was perfect,
Hey, but also, like, how often do you actually get to see Josh Gad die in a movie?
I know, but there's a reason for that.
It would give him a chance as an actor to do something outside of what we know him for.
Can this be a cut of Blade Runner, the next cut of Blade Runner, the final cut where, yes, Josh Gad is playing Zora, but also Zora teams up with Deckard, and he's like, it's okay, I'm not going to run for you, instead I'm going to help you, and, she survives the rest of the movie.
I mean, unless he blows Deckard, I don't care about that story arc, okay? We're trying to be progressive and inclusive and diversify here, okay? You know what I'm saying?
There's room in that car when they leave at the end. It's there's room for another person. It could be Deckard, Rachel.
Oh, it could be a throuple situation. Okay,
yeah.
All right, I'm on board now. I'm on board. You sold me.
Yeah, and then imagine like what that does for the eventual remake of Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah,
you have more
get flashbacks of Deckard like blowing into Josh Gad's stomach, just like you do a baby. I'm down for that. Okay.
All right. I just know the butterfly effect of that change means that Jared Leto somehow is not in Blade Runner 2049, so we all win.
Yeah. Thank God. We just fixed Blade Runner 2029. Not real, because that movie is so boring. But for a movie that just takes everything they left out of the original book and puts it into the sequel. Holy hell, I'm never watching that movie again. Ryan Gosling's great, by the way. I should say again, it's not like a bad movie. I do not give a fuck.
Well, I'm not looking forward to rewatching it, but I will, so that I can talk about it with Alex and Ryan, who will be joining us for that. So stay tuned. All right.
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah, I know.
Visually, I mean, hey, the movie is shot beautifully.
I mean, there's things that we can praise. Let's move on to trivia, Alex. We put Josh Gad to bed with 3 options. Now, what do you have for us?
Well, we talk about the different versions of the film extensively in the episode, and obviously we've got a expert on our panel here today about the movie. So I didn't really think I was going to cover anything that was unknown. So basically, I just had 2 directions where I wanted to take this. Number 1, which I believe I mentioned in the episode proper, but the video game Blade Runner from 1997, which was a point-and-click adventure game on the PC that the contemporaneous reviews, it was like a really like very heralded game. I read even some places had it as like game of the year on PC, which led to an eventual remastering and re-release in June of 2022. So this is even after the 2049 movie, so it wasn't like a tie-in with that. It just appears as though there was a bit of a demand for that. So it's now, or it was re-released as Enhanced Edition for PC, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. A quick Google search for a physical copy of it for a PlayStation 4 will return anywhere from $50 to $150.
Damn
Looks
it.
like some
You had me
version.
excited. I was like, Xbox One? Really? I can get it right now? It's like, no, I'm not going to pay $50 for Blade Runner.
Hey, man, it's worth it.
Is
Back
it?
in the day, I played that game, and I'm not a gamer at all, but like a friend had it, and I went to his house and we played it on his PC. Like it's good.
It looks really cool, and the graphics looked pretty advanced for the time period. But the game begins shortly after the beginning of the film, with McCoy tasked with tracking down a group of replicants who are suspected of murdering animals, a crime nearly as heinous as murdering humans, since most animal species are extinct and real specimens are exceedingly rare. So it looks like, oh, here you go. The game features 13 different endings, which are influenced by the player's cumulative actions and decisions throughout the story. Those are some of those cinematic games I've played over the past few years. Detroit, Become Human, and was it Heavy Rain? That I think there was like 64 different endings to it. So that is a little interesting tidbit that's out there. And then also, because
Do you know if Harrison Ford lent his likeness for the game, or
I can tell you definitely not. The main character is Ray McCoy, voiced by Mark Benninghoven, the protagonist and rookie Blade Runner. It looks like some of the character there was hilariously the lieutenant in this game, young Jeff Garlin provided the voice for. So yeah. So interesting tidbit, and then also because everything comes back to pro wrestling. In what was it, 85? In 1984, 85, somewhere in that time frame, two young men, bodybuilders, were discovered in California by a guy named Rick Bassman, who was a promoter out there, and he had Red Bastien train them. They were two members of this like idea he had for like a touring bodybuilding squad, also pro wrestlers. He called them the Power Team USA. These two wrestlers would go on to initially become the Freedom Fighters, Justice and Flash. But these guys were just two big bodybuilders, rough and tumble, and were greener than, goose shit, as some people like to say. And so they were brought into was it Continental Wrestling in the Memphis, basically Mid-South territories, and they debuted under a new gimmick as bad guys on the December 28th, 1985 version of their television show, the local television show, where these two guys showed up, and they now had their hair was shaved kind of crazy, and they wore black makeup across their eyes, and they announced that they would henceforth be known as the Blade Runners. So they had a brief run as the Blade Runner tag team, capitalizing. They moved on to Bill Watts, Mid-South. I knew they ended up there in some capacity. So the two members of this team, the Blade Runners, were real names Jim Hellwig and Steve Borden. Jim Hellwig was Blade Runner Rock, and Steve Borden was Blade Runner Sting. These two wrestlers would go on to become Sting and the Ultimate Warrior.
Shit, the Ultimate Warrior?
They got their first, I guess you would say, big break as the Blade Runners. And so their matches, I've only seen a handful of them, but they were basically just like, they were juiced to the fucking gills, and they just got sent out there to kill fucking jobbers and whatnot. But it's just kind of funny, the influence of, how pervasive this movie was at the time.
have they ever said anything about that makes you think that they might have at least seen the movie, or did they just grab the title from?
Oh, they just took the title. They had no idea what it was from. So
I mean, did Daryl Hannah's makeup.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a very good chance that Sting has still, that he's seen Blade Runner at some point in time. Jim Hellwig, of course, who's passed a decade ago. I'd be far more concerned about the films he was. I think the Passion of the Christ played on loop at his house.
Trucity.
Yes, but and then also to give a shout out here. I wonder if y'all can see this, but I'm going to post it in the chat. Wonderful video podcast, wrestling video podcast, the OSW review. In 1998, there was a tag team match on Nitro where the Ultimate Warrior and Sting had a reunion, and they did it for their show and made some original artwork and called it the Blade Runners reunion. And the artwork here, obviously, very reminiscent of the Blade Runner film itself. So,
yeah,
I would like to see Harrison Ford in one of those matches, like in, they don't draw attention to him, but if you like frame by frame the old footage, you can you just go enhance.
Idris Elba reveal.
Well, I mean, that's
the Blade Runner reveal.
That's also really funny because, like, Blade Runner, like Alex Broides, the director of The Crow, has said multiple times that Blade Runner is one of the main visual inspirations for that movie, which is like when Sting changed his makeup, that's clearly what he was going for. So, like, there's a nice, like, roundabout, like, oh, okay, everything kind of flows. Okay, yeah. Also, okay, so this is kind of a bit of a side, but Alex, me and Julio are comic book guys. Have you read the Ultimate Warriors comic book series?
I have. I remember, like, because the first version of it, he conned Vince McMahon into buying like 1 million copies of, and like they would give them out at live events or like send them in the mail if you like bought a pay-per-view or something. They're insane. Like the artwork,
they're fucking crazy as shit.
There's one where he like kills Santa Claus. It's a very, very strange series of happenings. There was a lot going on in that dude's noggin, man.
Yeah. Let's get folked.
All right. Well, I had to close on a wrestling note. But I mean, as has been evident by this discussion, Julio, and also the episode itself, it's a movie we can literally talk about for hours and hours. So, Corey, thanks for joining. This is a perfect compendium to the episode.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's one of those things where I think I said it in the episode. And if I didn't, it was definitely something that I was thinking as we were talking. Like, few things get you pumped to watch Blade Runner again than talking about Blade Runner. You talk about Blade Runner with people that have watched it, and you're like, you know what? I kind of feel like at least having it playing in the background, which is the case right now. I would probably go to sleep with Blade Runner playing in the background because it's pretty pictures and especially if I can find the original cut, because like I said in the episode, I don't want to like digress into this, but I will say I don't have a problem with the voiceover. I find it I think that it fits in a way the neo-noir aspect of it. I associate voiceover with noir, and I think that maybe because the first time I experienced Blade Runner, I experienced it with that voiceover, so I don't have it doesn't feel to me like something that was added on to a movie that I already watched without voiceover. So it's kind of like part of my first experience. So I can probably use it to go to sleep with bored Harrison Ford just walking me through the plot of Blade Runner.
Yeah. Rachel, he was beautiful and enchanting, and when will I get my check?
Yeah, that's great. Anyway, Corey, thank you. We will have you back for either The Thing or that Cronenberg movie. Well, it's not a Cronenberg movie, but the movie with David Cronenberg in it. What's it called? Nightbreed. Or Highlander 2. Whatever happens first.
Dude, I'm so down for Highlander 2.
I know you are.
Insanity. Like, that movie is insane. It's not a good movie, but holy shit, is it fun to watch if you know what you're getting into.
Yeah, one of those things will come around. We'll get to it and we'll figure out the best format. But thank you everybody for listening. God, let me try to figure out where we are in the schedule of the Contrarians. Alex, I think the Great Wall follows this episode, right?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So because it was Joker, Blade Runner, Great Wall, rotten, fresh, rotten. So watch The Great Wall, starring Matt Damon and a young Mandalorian, and the Chinese Great Wall, the Great Wall of China, as they call it.
Willem Dafoe,
a lot of like creatures, and badass Chinese soldiers. It's a movie that Matt Damon's daughter doesn't like, but that doesn't mean it's bad. So
Hey, it's a movie.
Mm-hmm.
you know how hard it is to make a movie. So, check it out. We'll be talking about that next. Thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.